Hey everyone, Tony D with another hot take. I don't really know what to call this one. I guess I would call it Welcome to the Socialist United States of America. So this is me on my libertarian soapbox. Understand what the stimulus really is. Okay, the stimulus is making money out of thin air, handing it out to everyone, which will temporarily help. Very temporary. The problem is that money will be in circulation. And it devalues the money you already have. So, let's say you've got, I don't know, $10,000 in the bank. It now really has the purchasing power after you pass out all this money of, say, $9,500, right? So maybe you got a slight increase, but over a period of time, as this money circulates, it drives up the price of everything. It's an invisible tax. There's a great video online right now. It's done by Black Pigeon. He does a channel called Black Pigeon Speaks, and he has another channel called, I think it's called Felix Rex. And you should definitely check out his videos. They're very good. But he just did one about this being a momentous moment in economic history of the United States. And he cites the first one in 1913, which is the reestablishment of the central bank, of the Federal Reserve. And then 71, when Nixon took us officially off the gold standard. And now this, because part of what's happening is there, and he quotes it in his video. One of the Fed representatives said, "Oh, we have unlimited money." We don't have unlimited money. But think about what that statement means. We have unlimited money. That is an incredibly bad thing to say to these Bernie bros. Because the next logical leap for the Bernie bros is, well, if you have unlimited money, why don't you just give everybody money? Problem solved, right? If you have unlimited money, why does anybody work? We don't have unlimited money. We have unlimited made-up money. I mean, you could say we have unlimited monopoly money, but that doesn't matter. The downside of this stimulus package won't be felt for a while. So people looking back on it will say, well, no, it was good for the economy, it saved us, and really it didn't do any damage. But see, the damage is delayed because prices will slowly creep up as your money buys less, and you will be hurt in the long run. And then down the road, when there's another crisis, what's to stop the government from saying, okay, we're in another crisis, let's just give out some money again. Because people like that. You know, even the Bernie bros love this. They don't think they're giving away enough money. They think we should be given $2,000 a month for like the duration of the quarantine. But it just it puts another nail in the coffin of us economically, because it pushes us closer to the socialists having an argument, right? So now they can argue, well, see, the stimulus worked. Wouldn't constant stimulus work? Wouldn't constant money pumped into the economy work even better? And the Fed does something called QE, quantitative easing. And essentially now, initially they said it was going to be a temporary measure to sort of get the markets back where they should be. And they would stop it and start it and stop it and start it. Now, essentially, the spigots are on full blast forever. That means you'll never have enough quantitative easing, because the more you do it, the more you need it, the more you need it, the more you do it, and so on and so forth. We cannot keep. This is essentially, if you look at it in a microcosm, this is like taking your credit card debt and paying it off with other credit cards and saying, we'll be fine. Well, you'd be fine for a while, and maybe you could continue to live your lifestyle and pay your bills, but a year later, you're even in more debt, and you just keep getting more credit cards, and then you're even in more debt. And the question is, when is that bubble going to burst? When is the dollar bubble going to burst? Ron Paul, of course, has been sounding the alarm about this forever. And, the climate change people say, we've passed the point of no return. Well, economically, it's looking like we're passing the point of no return, because although Trump knows how to be a good businessman and he knows how to spend money, he is terrible at paying his debts. He doesn't pay his debts because at the end of the day, he just declares bankruptcy and starts over. But you can't do that with a country. The smart thing to do, if you're going to do this stimulus, would be to, after the money comes back into the Federal Reserve, is to get as much as you can back and literally destroy the money. And that would then up the money that is in circulation. Now, granted, there's so much money in circulation. The amount, like I quoted, turning $10,000 into $500 probably wouldn't even be that. Wouldn't be anywhere close to that. It's more like, a couple of bucks, really. But over a period of time, it just continues to grow. And what it does is it punishes people who save money. Because imagine you save up money for retirement and you started saving, I don't know, back in the 80s, 40 years ago. And you've been saving and saving, and back in the 80s, you calculated that if you had $500,000 of investment in the bank, you'd be good for retirement. Now, here you are in 2020, you've got your $500,000. Maybe it's not enough now. It's most likely not enough, according to 1980s dollars versus 2020 dollars. That means you got to keep working. That means, your numbers constantly adjust. So it punishes people who are older, and it punishes people on Social Security because their Social Security money doesn't go as far. It just doesn't. One of the interesting things that's been happening is, when celebrities weigh in on the coronavirus, and they've just been S in the bed all over the internet. But the latest one that everyone's talking about, it's very interesting, is Britney Spears came out and they're calling her Comrade Spears because she's now endorsing wealth redistribution and giving away money. And she even called for a general strike, which would be everybody in America going on strike against their boss. I don't know exactly what she thinks that would do right now other than kill the rest of the economy, but it's obvious to me that this is Britney Spears, taking the most popular thing as she perceives it and, doubling down on it, right? Because you may or may not remember back in the Bush era, Britney Spears in Fahrenheit 9/11 was famously quoted as saying something like, we should all just listen to the president. And she was talking about Bush. And she was basically, saying that we should all blindly just, obey the president, kind of. That was the implication. And even back then, that was the same sort of thing that this is now. It is just that was popular because Bush's numbers were through the roof after 9/11, and he was insanely popular for a short time. And so she was saying that basically at the height of his popularity. So, and that fit in okay with her persona at the time. Now, she's coming back and she's sort of reinventing herself. She's got a new album. Oh, what do I say on Twitter? I'm watching all this stuff on Twitter. Oh, okay. I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be a Bernie bro. Wealth redistribution, everyone. And that's what this is all about. Unfortunately, that gets into the that sort of pushes the pop culture people into more of that. Oh, low battery already. Jesus, need a new phone. And she would, being a multi-millionaire, she would be not really affected too much by all this. While I guess if you had a Bernie Sanders in office, they'd go after people like her, and then she'd suddenly change her tune. But I think publicly, people like her wouldn't change her tune. On Twitter, she would say one thing, but behind the scenes, be telling her, accountant, hey, get me to all the tax breaks you can, get my money out of this country so I can save it. Because that's what people do. It's not that she's particularly hypocritical or whatever, although, supporting this kind of communist nonsense is a bit. It's just that people want to save their money. So, if you think communism can save us, I think you'd change your tune if you could say that and then have someone show up and take all you would have, essentially putting you in the financial position you would be under communism, which would be broke. Everybody goes broke under communism. There's no money, there's no food, resources are scant, because there's no economic incentive to do anything. And while you can argue that, well, that would give me a great chance to stay at home and work on my books or album or whatever you're doing creatively, it kind of sucks to be unable to pay for things. Believe me, I know how that is. So really, again, I have to say that I'm against the economic stimulus. It's not going to do anything, aside from, well, it'll do things in the short term, again, but in the long term, it'll hurt us more. For a guy like me, as poor as I am, the stimulus will help me get through a couple of months. But I also had some money to get through a few months anyway. So did I need it? Well, I could always use it because of my financial situation, but I could have survived without it. Could other people? You don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of people who, they're going to see that $1,200 check and go, oh, thank God I'm saved. But there are other people who will get that. Basically, the check's going to anyone who makes $75,000 or less. So, and unemployment on top of that. Unemployment's going to happen. We all knew unemployment would happen. That's what it's there for. The government can't stop that all of a sudden. And in fact, they signed an extension of it already. I think we all saw that coming. They did it in 2008. They were definitely going to do it, or 2009. They were definitely going to do it now. So the economic package itself, the $1,200, it's essentially the giveaway like in Futurama when when there was a tax surplus and President Nixon, who's just ahead in the future, gave everybody $300 to just blow on whatever. And I think that mirrored something that happened. I think there was a rebate at that time for some reason. I don't know why. But what we really need to do is cut taxes, permanently. You want to help people. My place has a property tax. It's over $7,000 a year. I could use that money. I could live partly on that money. That's a lot of money to spend that's just on taxes. That's just the be in the house. That's not the mortgage. That's the taxes. And I'm sure many of you know that that song. In New Jersey, that's a pretty low tax, property tax. I mean, my friend's paying double that. He's paying over $15,000 a year. That's a lot of money. He has a family. $15,000 in his pocket, that would go a long way to helping him. Now, you can argue that, well, that money is for the police and the garbage pickup and all the other things. Yeah, but I don't know if it, when you break down the money, if it really costs that much. And in fact, a lot of those things could be privatized and they'd probably be a lot cheaper. Garbage pickup being one of them. In my town, we finally have the very efficient, everybody has the same trash can automatic arm thing. A lot of people have that now. That saved a lot of money because you don't need as many guys on the truck. It's quicker to pick up the trash. You probably need fewer trucks. It's innovations like that are very hard to come by if you're doing it for the government. Whereas in the private sector, they're constantly looking for, time-saving and labor-saving devices like that in order to make their profit higher. Government's not going to do that. They're not necessarily interested in that. Now, in the case of my town's so small, it's trying to avoid being co-opted into another town. So they had an economic incentive to do something like that in order to cut costs. They needed to cut costs. So we were lucky that we didn't get sucked into another town and have our police absorbed into the second town. We kind of don't want that here. But it's not often that you have that economic incentive in government. You usually don't have any. So it's better to privatize things. And if you privatized a lot of things in New Jersey, especially education, and education is where most of that property tax goes in New Jersey, you could save a ton of money. Because obviously, I don't have any kids, so $7K a year, I would probably get $6K back in returns if, they privatized the educational system and people had to pay for their own kids. And it would also drive down the price of education because there would be competing schools and they would look for ways to save money. Some people would, you may not have to send your kids to school every day. They would maybe go to a place where they're just on a computer, or they would stay at home and learn from a computer and do their homework on certain days. And then maybe some days they'd come in for activities or whatever. And you could think outside the box, and there would be schools that would be more focused, for older students on academia, kind of like the Japanese model. So they split in the 8th grade, academics and trade school. So you could have a kid who has no interest in, and I've seen these. I used to be a substitute teacher. I would see kids who had no interest in a lot of academic things, but they were going to be mechanics and construction guys, and they were perfectly happy doing that. And they weren't stupid guys. They just saw that taking these other classes they didn't resonate with them. They didn't want to take them. So anyhow, it's a shame that the stimulus package is in the long run going to hurt things. I would like to see Trump somehow pay for this. I would like to see Trump somehow pay for anything he budgets, but I wouldn't expect much. That, again, Trump's one weakness. I would say bring the troops home, slash the military by half, and you could save $500 billion right there. But then again, nobody listens to me.